The stars have aligned in the skies, and that means it is time to talk about the Dragon Prince and the best part about season 5, which is obviously Viren's dream. We're gonna look at the entire dream scene by scene and maybe throw in a small theory about what Claudia witnessed after Soren was healed. So, with that said, let us just get to it because, like always, we have a lot to talk about. The dream sequence is split into 12 different clips. We start with Viren falling down as various memories flash by. We first see Viren posing for the king's portrait with King Harrow, and not to do my own horn or whatever, but in my Heroism Pip foreshadowing video, I did say that this portrait was what started it all, and here we are with confirmation. Just wanted to put that out there. Moving on. We see Sarai saving Viren during the hunt for the Magma Titan. We also see Aaravos in the mirror, which leads to Viren corrupting Luxaria. We see snippets of Soren, Claudia, and Harrow, then Viren's attempt at absorbing Sim and the plummet to his death. Finally, he finds himself before the mirror where he tries to justify his actions as being part of the path of fate. This sequence ends with the voice of his child calling out to him. In the next scene, Viren is lost in a hallway trying to find the voice of his child. With this many doors at his disposal, it is almost contradictory to his original claim that he had no choice, because to me, many doors symbolize the idea that he had multiple possible paths that he could have taken. But in this dream, I do think it is a reference to all the things that he needs to unpack. Like, there are a lot of skeletons in his closet, you know what I mean? But of course, we don't have time to look into each and every door. Viren is trying to find the voice calling out to him, and that leads him to a very specific door. Behind this door, he finds his old mentor. In the third clip, we get to see Kapp'Ar, and by the way, all these dream sequences are absolutely related to each other and are actually going in order. Not necessarily the chronological order that they happened in, but I am kind of getting ahead of myself. So back to the dream. The first thing we see in this scene is Kapp'Ar challenging what Viren told himself in the first dream sequence.
Every step I took because I had to.
Kapp'Ar obviously does not agree. Viren is where he is because he made it that way. But of course, we're still in the early stages of his dream, so he is still in denial and says that he had no choice. To which Kapp'Ar responds,
No choice. You made the choice you've always made. The one that gives you power. You're wrong.
Viren, of course, denies this, and this denial brings this scene to an end and brings us on to the next one. After denying that he has actually been chasing power, the dream encourages him to take a closer look in that mirror. In the fourth scene, we see Viren sitting on the throne with Kapp'Ar at his side. Opeli comes in carrying a tree trunk like a baby, while backwards saying, "The jelly tart you like will come back in style." I have absolutely no clue what this is about because we are never told that Viren likes sweets. And as a matter of fact, we only know that he likes hot brown morning potion and struck cheese, which, to be fair, does not mean that he doesn't have a sweet tooth, but he just doesn't seem like the type, you know? So yeah, in case you were curious, I gathered this information from Callum's spellbook, and in that book, the second thing Viren is said to dislike is Opeli, which I honestly find kind of amusing. But anyway, if we disregard whatever it is that Opeli is saying, actually, quick tangent. I have heard that this whole scene is a reference to Twin Peaks, but I don't get it. So if you understand the reference, please do explain it to me in the comments because I have no clue what it means. So yeah, I cannot analyze that aspect of the scene, but I do have my own interpretation of what is going on here. If we disregard what Opeli is saying, to me it kind of looks like she is presenting the heir of his reign, just like Kapp'Ar was presenting Viren as king. And spoilers, did I mention that? Anyway, in episode 9, it is revealed that Sir Sparklespuff is the offspring of Viren and Aaravos. This is what this sequence looks like to me. Opeli is presenting Sir Sparklepuff as the legacy of his reign. So Viren denied ever aiming for power, and in this part of the dream, people who would in fact never bow down to him as king are doing as such to show the discrepancy and make it obvious that the math is not mathing, because Opeli would never. enable Viren to sit on that throne. And clearly, neither would Kapp'Ar. As for the knights in the background, I honestly have no idea who they are. Maybe they're the ones who died the night that King Harrow was assassinated, or maybe even the few that he took out before he was captured for treason. But I'm not gonna lie to you, all the extras kind of look the same to me, so it's kind of hard for me to tell. Anyway, one way or another, the chaos of the throne room makes no sense to Viren, but this dream is trying to get him to understand. So when he throws off the crown, he gets a subtle reminder that he fell off the storm spire wearing that crown. At this point, Viren is still lying to himself, so the next scene takes him to how he acquired the crown, and we see a reenactment of the night that Harrow died. This entire scene is trying to remind him of his betrayal of Harrow and confirm that he did in fact trap him in Pip. If you want a full breakdown of that scene, definitely check out my analysis video on it because I went deep. But we're just gonna keep it moving here. This scene ends with Harrow performing the spell, "Your soul is my treasure," which is simultaneously a reference to the fact that Viren trapped Kapp'Ar in a coin. This leads Viren to finally finding the voice that has been calling out to him, and it turns out to be Soren. Here, we see that Viren's relationship with his son was not always cold and manipulative like it grew to be in recent years. We also see the tree from the courtyard make an appearance. I'm pretty sure the tree trunk that Opeli was holding earlier is a reference to this specific tree. It is clearly a place of sentimental value for him and his family. First, we see Claudia reading under that tree, then we see Soren eating jelly tarts. Actually, could Opeli's mention of jelly tarts be a reference to Soren? I'm not sure, but that might actually be the case. Anyway, both Soren and Claudia seem to have an attachment to this tree, and now we know that Viren used to spend time there with his family before he went dark. This part of the dream ends when we see Soren coughing, and Viren tries to reassure him that he's gonna be okay, but baby Soren ends up disintegrated. Then we see what started it all, where his calming mantra originated.
I'll do anything to save my son. I'll do anything.
Viren is seen channeling dark magic to recuperate Soren. Unfortunately, Soren is terrified with the sight of his father and runs away. Now, because this is a dream, the things we are getting to see are only glimpses of Viren's life and are not exact telling of events. What I think this particular scene is trying to reference is actually his wife Lisa. The thing that gave it away for me is actually these wisps that are seemingly being used for the spell. Now, I don't know that they were actually necessary for Soren's healing spell, but I know that they are related to Lisa because in book 1, when Claudia and Soren are gathering ingredients for the tracking spell, Claudia mentions that it was her mother who showed her that place. This was a place her mother had taken her so many years ago to show her something beautiful. A few years after that, her father had brought her here to show her something practical. So, despite the fact that we only see Soren in this scene, I think these wisps are trying to allude to Lisa. Because if you recall, when Lisa asked the children who they wanted to stay with, Soren chose Viren. Soren did not run away from him. Well, he did in season 3, but you know what I mean, like at that point. This part of the dream sequence is a reference to how Lisa ran away from him. And since we're talking about book 1 already, when Viren is trying to restore his corpse-like appearance after using dark magic, we get some background information into the fallout that he had with his wife. He remembered how he'd been filled with hope, certainty even, that this would change everything. He remembered hurrying home, ready to be forgiven. And even more clearly, he remembered the bitter hole left in his soul when Lisa told him his restored appearance changed nothing. Even though dark magic had helped their family, saving their son's life, she seemed to fear him and hate him now, and he knew he could never repair that. I actually think it's possible that Lisa also wanted to be a mage, since she was the one who showed Claudia the wisps. Maybe she was also the one who showed Viren where to find them, and once Lisa left, Viren showed Claudia how to use the essence of the wisps. The other thing that made me think that she might be a mage were all the books that she took with her when she went back to the bar. Maybe some of those were spell books. That is, of course, all speculation, but maybe Viren's restored appearance meant nothing to her because if she also wanted to be a mage, then she knew exactly what Viren had to do to restore Soren's health and just found it horrific that he would go to those lengths. Okay, so we're gonna pause here for a moment so that we can see things from a bird's eye view. before looking at the scenes with Claudia because while there are references to the past, the following set of scenes have more to do with the present and the future. So let's break it down. The entire dream sequence can be broken down into 4 different sections. The first section is the beginning and the end, where Viren is looking at himself in the mirror. In the beginning, he still has not come to terms with what he has become, so we have to go through each dream sequence so that he can get to the end and be honest about what he is seeing in that mirror, to see himself for what he truly is and what he has become. The second section is Viren's subconscious trying to get him to face his biggest betrayals of the people he cared for. Kapp'Ar was his mentor, and while we don't know much about the relationship, we can assume that Kapp'Ar was a huge part of his life, since we know that 2 important parts that make up Viren's character are the fact that he likes problem solving and puzzles. Both of those things can be directly associated with his mentor, but ultimately he ended up trapping Kapp'Ar in a coin. We don't know the full story yet, but Kapp'Ar was said to be having misgivings about dark magic before he disappeared, so we can assume that it was because of what Viren chose to do to heal Soren. When Dream Kapp'Ar is trying to get him to admit that he has been chasing power, Viren denies it, so the next sequence is a direct response to that denial. Viren was absolutely chasing power because he wanted to sit the throne. He wanted to be something special and important. He wants to be recognized, appreciated, and remembered in history. But because he doesn't really want to admit that to himself, he then has to be reminded of what he did to Harrow to get that crown. Harrow's fate at the start of book 1 was already sealed. He did not have to trap Harrow in Pip, but he did because Harrow humbled him, and that wounded Viren's ego and pride. Viren, even in his dreams, is trying to justify his actions by claiming that he wanted to protect his family, in this case being Harrow, but again, things aren't really adding up. Why did he trap Pip? Why did he condescend the bird the first chance he got? Okay, I'm sorry. I know I'm back to talk about Harrow and Pip, but since we're here already, I want you to look at these scenes of Harrow humbling Viren and then notice how this exact same composition is used again between Viren and Pip. This was absolutely always about a power dynamic. But anyway, back to the bird's eye view. The second section of the dream sequence is a reminder of the soul fang that Viren has become. Now, the third section has more to do with exploring how or why Viren became a dark venomous snake, and that is of course because he decided to perform dark magic to heal Soren. This is probably when his appearance took a turn and he became irreversibly corrupted by dark magic. This caused his wife to run away from him, and years down the line, so did Soren. But how exactly does healing his son make him a bad person? Well, 1, because he absolutely required some sort of sacrifice, and 2, he did not actually take Lisa or Soren into consideration when making this decision. It's sort of similar to Claudia, who chose to heal Soren when he was paralyzed, but at that point, Soren had in fact already accepted his fate. Claudia thought she knew what was in Soren's best interest, and not to mention, the fact that he was healed was later used against him. So healing Soren was actually not particularly selfless from either of them. The last section of the dream explores how Viren paved the path for Claudia to become the dark mage that she is now. She not only followed in his footsteps, but she will, or rather, she already has surpassed him. This is the part with some foreshadowing for what we can expect for her future. So with that out of the way, we can go back to the dream now. In this scene, Viren finds himself at a Red Sea, which in my eyes is a sea of blood, right? Because dark magic entails getting your hands dirty. You are taking the life force of other magical beings for your own use. It's important to note that despite the fact that we know Viren is a tyrant who attempted conquering Sadia, his feet are only barely touching the water. Then we have a small Claudia who follows in the footsteps of her father and picks up his craft. This horrifies, dream Viren, but in truth, this was always the case. In book 2, Viren hopes to himself that Claudia will never grow to resemble his corpse-like appearance. For a moment, he thought of his beautiful young daughter. He never wanted her to look this way or to feel this level of exhaustion. She didn't know what lay ahead of her. He would try to protect her for as long as possible. Although he doesn't want his daughter to be corrupted, I feel like it's kind of implied that he kind of thinks it's inevitable. But moving on. In the following scene, Claudia is not only not horrified by her father, but casually passes him and steps into that sea of blood as she tears the petals from the flower that Theory gave her. And I want you to notice how when Viren sees her step into that red sea, he once again reassesses what he is seeing and steps back. He does not actually want to be soaked in blood. Then a tsunami threatens to overtake Claudia. He asks her to turn back from a distance, but from that distance, he can do nothing. This is when he then follows after her and tries to get her to notice his concern and hear his warning, but she is not receptive to him. In the next clip, by the time Viren is close enough for her to even hear him, it's too late. She is swallowed up by the wave just as she's about to turn around and notice him. Finally, as he's reaching out to a drowning Claudia, the dream sequence shifts because in the real world, he is actually the one drowning, but as he's dying, he gets to see a fully corrupted Claudia. The entirety of her hair has lost its color, and she now repeats his mantra back to him.
I'll do anything for our family, Dad. Whatever it takes, however dangerous, however vile.
At this point, he tries to reach for her one last time, but she disappears before his grasp, entirely out of his reach. Okay, now I can analyze this past 4 clips because I feel like it's easier to look at them together. My major theory and takeaway from these clips is that I believe Claudia actually witnessed Viren seal Kapp'Ar in that coin. She always knew what happened to him, right? Because Claudia follows in his footsteps as a child. In book 2, right before she's about to perform dark magic to heal Soren, she recalls and channels her father's resolve. Claudia thought of her father. She remembered as a small child accidentally eavesdropping on an argument Viren was having with the old one. She had snuck into Kapp'Ar's puzzle house and was hiding in one of the passages when she overheard the angry yelling. She could still hear her father shouting at Kapp'Ar, "I will do anything to protect my family, however dangerous, however vile." Little Claudia was scared, but she knew her father loved them more than anything. Claudia opened her eyes again. Then she did what she had to do. That is the first hint that we get, but in the graphic novel Puzzle House, we get more hints in this direction. Claudia gives us a solid sequence of events. First, Soren falls ill, then Kapp'Ar disappears, Soren's health improves, but the arguing begins and then Lisa takes off. We can assume that Viren healing Soren, or him wanting to do it, is what made Kapp'Ar Warrior of Magic. That must be why he then started to destroy a lot of his dangerous relics, including spellbooks. The last piece of evidence to support this theory is Claudia's reaction to Soren when he asks her what she thinks happened to Kapp'Ar. She stops, says she doesn't know while she's looking down and away from Soren, and changes the topic. Then, when Soren tries to get them to leave the puzzle house, suggesting that she just ask Viren her questions about magic, she says that he won't help and that he's barely trying to figure out what happened to Kapp'Ar anyway. I feel like Claudia knew at this point. That's why she didn't want to ask Viren anything. She witnessed their argument. Kapp'Ar must have been sealed at that time, and she saw it happen. That is what set Claudia down the path of dark magic, and that is how she learned to justify her use of it. That's why she heals Soren when he's paralyzed, and then revives Viren after he dies. I think at this point in the story, Claudia has already walked into that sea of blood. I don't know what to make of the fact that Aaravos says that he never lies, but I'm pretty sure Viren is still alive. Now, I'm not really sure what the Blood of Child spell is for, but Viren has already been resurrected. He is already alive. Claudia already completed the spell. I think the Blood of Child spell might be to strengthen him and maybe even give him some sort of immortality, since the Blood Moon Huntress requires blood to prolong her life. I don't think the expiration date was genuine. The only way that I can make sense of this is that Aaravos may have never lied when he said that to Viren in season 2, but he has been in that mirror for centuries. The fact that he is so close to tasting freedom will push him to new lengths. While he may have gotten away with only relying on deception before, now he needs new tricks, and that includes lying. And as unreliable a narrator that Viren is, he is not a complete idiot. When Aaravos tells him that he never lies, Viren thinks to himself, nobody never lies. Yeah, we all lie at some point in our lives. It might be harder to counter if he would have said something along the lines of, I would never lie, because that also implies the future, but Aaravos is desperate now. So again, I don't think Viren's life will actually expire. I'm not entirely sure what his role could be, but I honestly think he still has loose ends with Pip, Soren, and maybe even Lisa. If this dream is foreshadowing, I think it's possible that he will live to see Claudia's hair turn entirely white. He will try to get her to turn away from dark magic to no avail, because, well, he cannot entirely redeem himself. The best he can do is understand the terrible person that he became and how that impacted his children. And while the dream did help him arrive at this new conclusion, he does not really entirely understand. That's why he was catatonic for the rest of the season. The conclusion that he arrived at in his dream was only a subconscious understanding. Now he needs to be put to the test. And just because he refused Aaravos once, that is not enough. Just like Callum, he rejected dark magic and is now a primal mage, but he is still tested on his will to reject dark magic years later. So I think if Viren remains alive, that is what his arc will be around. Comprehending the path that he walked and actively choosing a new one. I pray to the moon that Lisa will be involved and that we'll see her in upcoming seasons, but that is to be determined. But that is pretty much all I have to say on the matter. The discussion was kind of long, but I just love the dream sequence. It is absolutely packed with symbolism. I hope you enjoyed this dream analysis too and my theory on what Claudia witnessed. If you did, hit all the pretty buttons down below and tell me all your thoughts. Do you think Claudia witnessed Kapp'Ar being sealed in a coin? And also, don't forget, if anyone knows what that Twin Peaks reference means, please let a girl know. Okay, but that is it. That is all. Hit the subscribe button if you want to join me on this beautiful moon nexus, and hit the bell so that you may be notified whenever the stars align. Until then, Tenebras Post Lux.